Welcome to Owning Pleasure as a Black Woman, the podcast for accomplished Black women ready to stop surviving and start thriving. I'm your host, Natasha Riley, licensed therapist and founder of Javer Integrative Wellness Services. This is where we move beyond talking about change to actually creating it. Every episode gives you practical tools to build a daily pleasure practice because you've already proven you can achieve anything. Now it's time to learn how to enjoy it. Ready to bridge the gap between knowing and doing? Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Owning Pleasure as a Black Woman. I am your host, Natasha Riley, and here we talk all things pleasure, self-care, and rest for the high-achieving Black woman. So if you're new here, welcome. I appreciate you coming over here to my little side of the internet. And if you are an OG, welcome back. I got a good one for you today. Now, before we get into the episode, there are two things I would love for you to do for me. One, I would love for you to take 30 seconds, maybe less than that, to like and comment and leave a review to let us know how we're doing, what conversations you would like us to have, and also help push this out to more women like you who want to hear this message. Two, go ahead and sign up for the 7-day self-care series. We're going to reset our nervous system. We're going to build these foundational self-care techniques, these skills. We're going to have a self-care toolbox because everything that I talk about on each episode, it builds on top of each other. Sometimes it overlaps and you need a foundation of trusting and leaning into taking care of yourself before everyone else. So I will remind you of these things at the end of the episode as well, because repetition is key. Now let's get into it. Today's episode is for the woman who shuts down or comes out swinging, whichever one you choose, in the middle of a conversation and then spends the next 3 hours replaying words, every word, wondering if she overreacted, even though what was said to her wasn't okay. It was out of pocket. Or the woman that gets told she's too sensitive or too much when she tries to speak up for herself, even though she's been holding it in for a couple weeks before saying anything. Or how about the woman who's been called defensive so many times now that she second guesses whether her feelings are even valid before she opens her mouth? Today, we're going to sit with a question that I think hits different for a lot of us, including me. What is actually the difference between being defensive and defending yourself? Because I think a lot of us have been told we're one when we're actually the other. Now, I see this constantly in myself and in other high-achieving women, the women who are very articulate, thoughtful, self-aware, just like yourself, who have been accused of being defensive in moments when they were simply trying to be heard. Now, there is nothing wrong with you for not knowing the difference. This distinction, it was never taught to most of us. So for my girlies who get called intimidating, I'm raising my hand on that. This is for you because we're not intimidating. So let's talk about what actually happening. Let's put a name to it. Defensiveness and self-defense can look almost identical from the outside looking in. So that's raising your voice, shutting down, walking away, getting quiet, or just going cold. But each one of those come from a different internal space. Defensiveness usually shows up when something is true, or it might be feared to be true. So somebody gives you a criticism and you're like, ooh, I got to combat that because what if it's true? What if it's true? And you were touched in a place, right? Like severely hurt you because what they might be saying is true. It's a protection against vulnerability. Self-defense, that shows up when something unjust is happening. It is a protection against violation. So you have one that's a protection against vulnerability, and you have one that is a protection against violation. And for Black women, the two have been deliberately conflated. Your reaction becomes a subject instead of the thing that's actually happening to you. Think about those microaggressions that happen at work, sometimes with friends, sometimes with coworkers, sometimes with family. Focus more on what you did than what actually is happening to you in the moment. And we have been socialized to manage other people's comfort levels so that when we speak up, it gets coded as too much. Because why are you not worried about my comfort? Why are you talking to me like that?
Listen, I need to be real with you for a second. You're here listening to this episode. Maybe you're nodding along, you feeling seen. And girl, that's beautiful. But if you're like most of my listeners, you're going to finish this episode. You're going to feel all inspired for about 10 minutes and then go right back to your regular life where you're still putting everyone first. I get it. I've been there. But here's what I've learned: the gap between knowing what you need to do and actually doing it is where transformation lives. Now, if you're tired of just consuming content about self care and you're ready to start practicing it, not tomorrow, not next week, but starting today, I created something specifically for you. It's called the 7 Day Self Care Reset, and it's exactly what it sounds like: 7 days of simple, actionable steps that help you move from thinking about prioritizing yourself to actually doing it. No overwhelm, no complicated systems, just practical tools that work with your real life. You'll get permission to put yourself first, learn to recognize those inherited patterns that keep you stuck, and discover what your authentic desires actually are underneath all the expectations. This isn't about adding more to your plate. I'm not going to do that to you. It's about finally honoring what's already on it, starting with you. Ready to stop listening and start living? Visit javerywellness.com/reset. That's RESET. And let's do this work together. Because the woman who just listens and the woman who actually takes action, they live completely different lives. Now, back to the episode.
And the cost of being called defensive over and over and over again is that many of us really stop trusting our own read on situations. We stop trusting our intuition and our discernment. And we begin gaslit out here because some of these situations, y'all aren't crazy. Y'all are not crazy. Now, why does this exist? Defensiveness as a pattern, it develops environments where you don't feel safe to be wrong, where mistakes usually are shamed or punished or judged, where you just don't, it doesn't feel good to be wrong. And in those environments, the nervous system learns if someone is criticizing me, I need to shut it down, shut it all the way down before they get too close to something that is real. And that can be coded as defensive. Okay. So that defensiveness, it was smart for survival. It was a survival tactic. It kept you emotionally intact in spaces that weren't safe. And the reality is, it protects you from shame. The fear that if you let the critique in, it will confirm your worst beliefs about yourself. The self defense protects you from something different. Okay. Remember, this isn't about shame, this isn't about critique. Self defense protects you from having your reality rewritten, from having your experience minimized and your boundaries crossed. Now, both are forms of protection. We don't have to question that. The question is, what is actually threatening you in this moment? Defensiveness tends to be about your self image. It's triggered by a perceived threat to who you believe yourself to be. Self defense tends to be about self respect. Now, that's triggered by something happening to you that should not be happening. One is reactive to what's inside. So that's the fear of being exposed. And one is responsive to what's happening outside. Like you are actually for sure being violated. And here's what's important to hold about this: both can feel very same in the body in that moment. They both can make your heart race. They can make your voice change. They can make your words get a little bit sharper, get a little bit more aggressive. And the difference often only become clear after the fact. When it's quiet and you're just reflecting on the conversation or the situation, and you ask yourself, was I protecting my ego or was I protecting my dignity? Now, how this can affect you long term. If you can't tell the difference, you either over explain everything because you're trying to prove why you're not being defensive, or you just go silent because you don't want to be called defensive. And none of those are actually being in relationship. Neither one of them make you feel free. None of them make you feel heard or seen or make you feel safe. So the woman who is always pre-apologizing, over softening, adding 10 qualifiers before saying what she actually means, she's not calm. She's not calm on the inside. She's just learned to make her self-defense look more tasteful, more palatable for the people that she's around. Now, I'm going to offer you, as I always do, some questions. They're not questions for you to answer right now. Do not let your perfectionist tap in and be like, oh my gosh, we got to answer all these questions. These are probably questions that you're going to be sitting on for a while. But I want you to carry them with you. Put them in your toolbox. Question number one. Think of the last time someone called you defensive or the last time you were told you were being defensive. What were you actually trying to protect in that moment? Was it your self image or your self respect? Question number two. Is there a relationship life where you've stopped defending yourself because you've been called defensive so many times that it just does not feel worth it anymore? What does that relationship cost you? And question number three. What does it feel like in your body? Yes, we are getting out of the mind and going into the body, y'all. What does it feel like in your body when you're being defensive versus when you genuinely being dismissed or disrespected? Is there a difference, even if it's a subtle one, even if it's like just little minute, it's still a difference. And with these questions, this week, I just want you to notice, just notice, no judgment, no stories about it. Just notice the things, document what you notice. Which one is happening in the moment that feel charged when you're engaging with people, when someone says something to you, when someone gives you a criticism? What is happening in that moment? And you don't have to change anything. You don't have to change anything yet. You just want to get curious about the difference and have more awareness. Now, this was a shorter episode, but I feel like it's a heavier episode and it's going to dig out some discomfort because some of you might actually be trying to save your ego. I know a lot of it is respect, but there are some of us, myself included, where we're trying to save the ego. And here's something that I want to name before we close out this episode. This podcast is going to help you understand the pattern. It's going to help you understand where it comes from, why it makes sense, and what it's been protecting you from. But understanding a pattern and actually changing how it shows up in the heated moment, whether it's with your partner, your family member, your coworker, your boss, your business partner, that is different work. Therapy is where we help you slow down in real time, where we can help you develop the capacity to stay in your body when you're activated. So you can actually see the distinction, not just intellectually, but somatically, like in your body in the moment. And that kind of change doesn't happen from awareness alone. And trying to do that work without support can sometimes just create a new layer of self criticism on top of the original pattern. You don't have to white knuckle and figure this out on your own. So if something in this episode landed for you, if you recognized yourself in the woman who's been called defensive when she was really just trying to be heard, our clinicians at JRE Integrative Wellness Services work with this exact pattern every day. And you can take the first step by completing the intake form at jrewellness.com/get-started. There's no pressure, no urgency. It's just a very clear next step when you're ready. And if you're not quite there yet, that's absolutely fine. You just want to keep exploring. Then go ahead and sign up for the free 7-day self-care reset at jrewellness.com/reset. It is designed for women who are tired of surviving and want to start getting honest about thriving, what thriving actually looks like for them. And if this episode, anything about this episode resonated with you, take 30 seconds to leave a rating, and a review. It helps other women who need to find us find us. So, again, thank you so much for being here. Remember, being asked to stay quiet about something that hurt you is not the same as being called to grow. You deserve to know the difference. I love you so much, and I will talk to you in the next episode. Bye.
And that's a wrap on today's episode of Owning Pleasure as a Black Woman. If this conversation sparked something in you and you're ready to take action, don't let that inspiration fade by Monday morning. Visit www.jrewellness.com/reset and start your free 7-day self-care reset today. Because the woman who just listens and the woman who actually takes action, they live completely different lives. Talk to you next week. Bye.